you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Celtics are 8-7 in their last 15 games. They're 28-12 on the season, 6.5 games back of the Cavs at the time of recording. They lost to the Toronto Raptors last night. Not great, because this isn't a great year for the Raptors. I saw some people saying that it's because the Celtics wore their new City Edition uniforms this year, and that's why they lost. Jason Tatum after the game said they're going through some bleep. You watch more Celtics basketball than most people. What has been your take on what's going on with Boston? Is it just championship hangover? Are they tired from guys playing into late June, then playing at the Olympics, then going to Abu Dhabi before the season started, and now it's just kind of being like, hey, let's just fast forward to the playoffs or what have you?
Yeah, I mean, like, there are legitimate concerns. Like, it's not just like, like at points last year during the regular season, I was like, this team just like looks bored and that's why they're losing games. Like, that's not the case right now. Like, they look out of sync. Like, defensively, they don't look very good. Rotations aren't sharp. They're not playing with a ton of passion or energy on the defensive end. And then on the offensive end, like, it's very stagnant. Threes aren't falling right now, and it's not looking pretty on the offensive end because their, incredible shooting cannot bail them out of like what their stagnant offense looks like right now. So, it's not like the your turn, my turn Celtics of like the Kyrie Irving days where like it feels like everybody's forcing up shots and trying to, get theirs because they haven't gotten a shot in a while. It's not like it's like that. It's more so just that they're not really running a ton offensively. The shots aren't falling to space the floor for guys like JT and JB to get easier looks going downhill to the rim. And on the defensive end, they're not clicking. Like the rotation, like I said, rotations aren't sharp. They're not playing very physical, not playing with a ton of energy on that end of the floor. So they're not creating easy baskets going the other way for themselves. And that's, really their brand of basketball, right? Like, it's like they've been a really elite defensive team, at least in the Joe Mazzulla era, really elite defensive team, and a team that has always been able to kind of like ungrind the gears on offense by making tough shots because they have a lot of guys who can shoot. And right now, neither of those things are happening. So you're seeing a team that, like you said, they're 7-7 through the last 14 games. I was looking at it last night, actually. So that last night was their 10th game with their regular starting lineup of Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kristaps Porzingis. That team is that with that starting lineup, they are 5-5 this season. And that starting five has the 8th worst net rating of all 5-man lineups that have played 100 minutes so far this season. So that puts them in the conversation. Like, it was like Blazers lineups and like bad Wizards lineups that the Celtics starting five that won them a championship last year is really just not clicking. Now on the flip side, like their starting lineup with Al Horford in the lineup, not Porzingis, and the same 4 other guys is among the best 5-man lineups in terms of net rating for lineups that have played at least 100 minutes together. So I do think that there is some level of inconsistency of like Porzingis not always being available, and when he is, they're trying to figure out like, all right, how does this work? It's weird to say they're still like figuring it out because that shouldn't be the case after the team, ran the distance last year and won a championship. Right. But I do think that like, with guys in and out of the lineup, like they just haven't been all that healthy this year. Drew's missed games, JB's missed games, JT's missed games. Like Derek White's really the only one that's consistently been playing night in, night out. And even he was dealing with an injury earlier in the season. Al Horford he's in a crazy shooting slump right now, last 3 games. And then Al Horford, obviously, like he hasn't played back-to-backs in 2 seasons now. So he's in and out of the lineup as well. And I also think that like Mazzulla likes to change things up and try different things with like, some nights it's Jordan Walsh that's getting minutes. Sometimes it's Neemias Queta that's getting minutes. Like he, it's not always consistent there, and he does that on purpose. I think he likes to try and make the team uncomfortable to figure out, all right, like what lineup combinations work, this and that. So I say all that to say, like, am I hitting the panic button on the Celtics? Absolutely not. Like, I still think when push comes to shove, they're the best team in the NBA top to bottom. But like, I don't think that this is just like championship hangover. They're not really trying all that hard. Like, type of a lull in the season. Like, there are legitimate concerns going on right now that they have to address.
Yeah, you put it well. Like, being out of sync is a good way to describe it, because when I was watching that game against the Raptors, like, they didn't look disinterested. They just looked like one of those things where, like, it's like you're trying to figure out a math problem that you never were taught, like, how to operate the formula for. And it's just like, well, I don't really know what I'm doing. So, like, I'm just kind of here. And again, like, it was like a across the board, just like a level of frustration that kind of stems from that, which I saw from that team. And again, I do think that, like you said, and even like Joe Mazzulla's quotes after the game about, like, we got to embrace his challenge as a part of the journey. Like, I know that he's like kind of throwing these curveballs to this team to try and see how they can react. And I think it goes to show you that even if a team essentially runs the exact same roster back from winning a championship, no two teams are alike. It has a completely different identity and it's a completely different DNA from last year, even if it is all the exact same key players, because everything else around them has changed. The teams that they're going against have changed. It's the way that teams are preparing for them has changed as well. So I won't be surprised we're back here talking about this at some point and they're on a 10, 12 game heater and they're just rounding into shape once the season is kind of hitting its stretch run. But I understand why people are concerned. And you know, there's a thin line between being overly concerned and panicking. But again, it's not like they're like in danger of falling out of the playoff picture, or like they're going to have to find themselves in the play-in tournament, or like there's like this big injury looming over them that they have to figure out what to do in the aftermath. It's just like, hey, what's wrong with this team and how can we fix it? But the answer is in the locker room, whether it's the coach, whether it's the lineups or whatever. They just got to come to it and figure that out. So I'm sure that will straighten itself out as it goes on.